I'm Madeline Chassell, and I'm the policy director at the Secular Policy Institute. So that's our team at the moment, and Edwina, take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madeline. And I want to mention that we're trying this time, but if there's a better time that works for the majority of everybody, we're certainly happy to try a different time. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know our friends in New Zealand, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, so it's not ideal for them. But we are trying to get a time that works for most everybody. And so about the Secular Policy Institute, we've got our mission here, and I certainly don't need for me to read that to you, but we are focused on creating the world's largest coalition of secular groups and to facilitate the coordination among those groups, not to be in charge of anybody or any group, but to just pass out information and find out ways that we can work together in a collaborative manner so that we can have good results on our side. And one of our major projects that we're having in this fall is the World Future Forum. So we've got 5 major topics that we're going to be talking about, and we'll have 2 experts each, and we'll be talking about the future of Earth's climate, the future of humanity, the future of violence and terrorism, the future of technology, and the future of space exploration. So after each expert talks about their area that they're an expert on, then we're going to have members of Congress, U.S. members of Congress. We're kicking off this inaugural event in the U.S., but we're very much interested in having it in other cities around the globe. And then the policy decision makers will spend time discussing what they've heard from the experts and maybe policy changes or law changes that we might need to get where we want to be 100 years from now. So these experts will actually be predicting the future. And so we're still working on the details of that event, exactly who the experts will be and the venue. You know, we're talking to auditoriums and hotels, and we're going to have that live stream so everyone will be able to be included. And we have a project that we're still just working on. It's in the draft phase. It's called Community Action Network. And so basically what that is, that's a platform that can be used around the world for secular groups to get involved with their local schools and their local community and help solve problems at the local level. So a group that maybe you're a humanist group or a free thought group or an atheist group or a science group or whatever, you can keep your name and still be your group, but you could pick up a project with Community Action Network. Or if you'd like to form a new group, you could form it as a Community Action Network. Like, for example, I live in Maryland, right outside of D.C., in the little neighborhood I live in. It's called Brookmont. So it could be, you know, Brookmont CAN, like Brookmont Community Action Network. And so it's just a way for secular people to be seen as solving the problems and being leaders in the community. So just moving down the list, we are working on the World Future Guide that will be coming out later this summer. So the fellows are working hard. They're writing 5 pages each about the topics that they are experts on. We already have 15 of the 30 fellows that have committed to this particular project. And so that's already enough to be a full guide. You know, that within itself would be plenty long enough. And I think about 8 or 9 of the articles have already been permitted, and they're being edited as we speak. And this is something that will be annual. So now, of course, we are continuing to look for additional fellows, especially with geographic diversity and other types of diversity. But Madeline's going to be talking about that a little bit more later. We have, in the final edit, the Secular Demographic Guide that will be coming out probably within the next 2 months. And we're hoping to have enough interest to host an International Secular Leaders Summit, perhaps in Miami, Florida, in January 2016, where secular leaders from around the world could come together and we could share best practices and learn about what a variety of groups have going on around the world. And here's our monthly schedule. And we are wanting to recruit national leaders and regional leaders and continental leaders that can come on this quick call once a month and tell us about what's happening in your particular region that you're willing to take responsibility for, so that we can get a good grasp for the types of struggles and challenges that we're all facing based on separation of religion in government, and for laws to not be based on superstition or people's religious beliefs. And then, of course, the end result would be we'll be able to figure out where the international hotspots are, and we could do maybe a letter to an official in that particular area and get all of these groups around the world to sign on. Johnny Montserrat has found more than 3,000, and we've already recruited more than 300. And, of course, we'd like to get as many as we can so that we can get a seat at the decision-making table. So, Madeline, that's pretty much everything I had in my section. I know I've
so we can say
okay.
goodbye.
All right, I will, and I'll just put myself on mute.
Okay. Wonderful.
All right.
In our agenda item next, I was just going to introduce myself. So if anyone joined us later, I'm Madeline Chassell. I'm the Director of Policy for our Secular Policy Institute. And I'm just going to give a brief update and tell you a little bit about our fellows. And if you are on the web, I will momentarily share here just a picture of our screen, the Who We Are tab of our website. And hopefully you in web attendance can see we have our staff list here that's showing up. But we do have 30 fellows at the moment. 11 of them are international. At least 11 of them would be considered international by US standards, I should say, but all of them are worldly. And at 30 is our current number. We also have other areas of employment, if you want to call it. We have advocates, we have our board of directors, our advisory board, and of course our staff, which just a few of us are here today. But the main thing to remember about our fellows is that they have certain credentials that that are particularly interesting to us. So it's not that other members aren't equally worthy, but these 30 have become our fellows according to certain credentials, and we have 6 of them listed here on our website. So hopefully you can see this. We're looking for scientific and scholarly standing, which is measured by, what have they published and what is their research. Also, we are looking for peer recognition measured by their reputation in the secular community and also by their awards that they may have gotten nationally or internationally. They're standing in their field. So this is their memberships on journal boards, grant panels, and honorary associations. Then, of course, their institutional affiliation. So are they affiliated with a university or are they ranked by research councils, et cetera? We also do look for high degrees. This is not a requirement, but many of our fellows do possess PhDs or other high-ranking degrees, JDs. And also their prestige and visibility related to these other aspects, but measured in this case by their number of lectures, their book chapters or books, the things that are really digestible by the public. And again, we have all sorts of roles at SPI, and there are many ways that people can contribute to our team. If you are on this call and you are or know people, especially when you're calling in from countries that we are farther from in the US, the more our reach is global, the happier we are, the more that we can get done, the more change we can accomplish both here in the US and around the world, which is our goal. So please, if you know anyone who meets these credentials or someone who meets most of those credentials and you're calling in from another country, please, please, please join our team. Let Edwina or myself or Johnny know that you or someone you know has interest in being one of our elite fellows and or contributing in some other way to one of the other roles at our institute. And other than that, you should know that we have a secular policy daily digest. And let's see if I can just take you quickly to our home screen for those of you on the web. You'll notice that you can click a button that says Get It Now with a wonderful child very excited to access the computer screen. When you go to the Get It Now link, you'll be taken to our email sign up. You can sign up for both a weekly newsletter organized and coordinated by Johnny Montserrat and for a daily digest, which is sourced from around the world, global news that is just news bites from other news sources. So it's not articles that we've written, but it's just to stay in the know on the secular movement. So let's see if I can show you that here. You'll notice on the sign up screen, you can select the weekly SPI newsletter for our original articles, news, and editorials. You can also select the SPI Secular Daily Digest, which would just give you each day, morning US time, but not necessarily morning, just snippets from around the world on science, politics, religion, and our fellows having to do with the secular movement. So if you would like to join that newsletter and stay in the know, please go to our website and sign up. And I'm going to stop my screen here. And let me see. I believe that's really all I have to share. You can always get in contact with me at madeline@secularpolicyinstitute.net. And I would like to move on and allow Johnny Montserrat, our Alliance Director, to talk about all the wonderful things that he is spearheading. And so, Johnny, let me know if you are able to chime in now.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? This is the most important part of the call because this is the part where we give you money. All the coalition leaders, I've traded email with you personally. Thank you so much for encouraging me. I am out of the hospital now and recovering at home. And I promised you all resources, so how do you get access to the resources? Well, it can be as simple as just dropping me an email and let me know what's going on. We don't want you to be buried with paperwork or to feel like we're a faceless organization. Just call me, and we'll just talk through how we can help you. There are some examples, though, I can give you. Recently, we've built some free websites or some partially subsidized websites, for example, for our friends at the United Coalition of Reason, and the Hispanic American Freethinkers, the Foundation for Critical Thinking, and my favorite, the United Church of Bacon, plus the International Free Thought Film Festival. We're working on websites for all those groups, and you can have some help there as well. We also have a page on our website. If you go to our main menu, you'll see a tab that says Projects. Our philosophy is kind of like the Bill Gates Foundation. We don't want to just fund projects. We want to talent scout projects so we can accelerate. So we'll contribute our fellows, Edwina's contacts in politics and media. We'll try to fundraise for you. We'll lend management support, try to help you package your thoughts. So you'll find a whole lot of goodies there, and you'll already see that the Foundation Beyond Belief has submitted a couple of project proposals to help with disaster relief and to help with women who are the victims of witch hunting in Uganda. The more projects we put up there, the more donors and media attention will attract. And the idea is to offer a cafeteria-style model. The more projects we have, the more variety we have, the more likely it is that every donor who comes to our website will want to contribute something, or volunteer, or contribute resources. Some of the things I wanted to point you to also on the website, we now have 300 coalition members from all around the world. That's something like 50 countries. 60 of them are national or international size groups. Of course, they're our favorites. We'll also have a whole bunch of resources on the website. If you want to know what's happening in the world, we have a calendar of the big worldwide events. We also have a directory of secular groups or skeptic groups. I'll be updating those events and groups in April, so those updates are coming. You'll also find research on the secular movement. You'll find academic papers. You'll find prominent blog articles. You'll find books by our fellows and others. And you'll also find real research on demographics and Pew studies. Everything that you would need to convince a politician that secularists form a genuine voting bloc and should be listened to. We also have our policy guide. Right now, the policy guide was written for the United States, but we're now seeking those of you who live in other countries to step forward and help us to create policy guides for other countries. The policy guide basically tells politicians our viewpoint, and then, of course, being evidence-based people, we then back it up with pointers to research and science that shows why our viewpoint is not only valid, but grounded in reality. That's a big asset. That's pretty much all I have to say, but the takeaway is our coalition is real, and we really actually do want to help you. All you have to do is email me. I'll engage with you, and we'll figure it out. My email is johnny@secularpolicyinstitute.net. Thanks very much.
Johnny, thank you so much.
I'm Madeline. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, basically all I did, I put down what's happening in some of the states around the U.S. just as an example that we would like to show in the future. So in the future, when we get our regional and national people in place, then we'll have a quick, I'll do the U.S. summary, of course. I'll have national and then highlights from the states. But then we would love to hear about some of the European countries, Australia, New Zealand, countries in Africa and also Asia and around the globe. And so we'll have probably a couple of 2 pages, but they'll be very much in an executive summary type format. And then we'll be able to get a better handle of what it is that we're up against internationally. So that was basically, I put together that section there just as an example so that you can see some of the trends that are happening in our a number of our 50 states. And then next month when we get together, it should be more broad in that there'll be a state update in the U.S. national, and hopefully we'll have Canada and New Zealand, Australia, and maybe 10 or 15 countries around Europe, and a few out of Africa, and a few out of Asia, and then that would just continue to grow. And then I think we'll see trends, because we do see trends in the U.S. Something might start nationally, and then it'll spill over and kind of go state by state, or it'll start in one state or one region, and then start spreading around, because we are in a global network and global environment now. So that's the whole point of that. So I'll turn it back over to you, Madeline.
Great. And thank you, Edwina. And again, let us know while you're still here. So just because we decided to include some current events, I'm going to quickly share the screen here on our call agenda. And
then, Madeline, I just put down just a few snippets about things that were happening internationally. I put down some information about Saudi Arabia, and then some information about a global coalition that we all have access to. So we'll continue to identify international coalitions. Maybe it's about medically correct sex education, or maybe it's about marriage equality, or women's reproductive rights, or freedom of religion, or freedom of religious belief. Those are, of course, the kinds of things that we care about. The core separation of religion and government matters. So as we identify opportunities around the world for groups to get involved in, it could be, a local group in Uganda or Romania, or it could be an international group or a national group, or maybe a group in Iowa in the U.S. or Alabama, where I'm from. So if groups want to become more national or more international, we'll just be able to deliver to them these opportunities and information. But it's not going to be easy for us to do it unless other people on the call are in the coalition or willing to share information with us. We'll say back to you, Madeline.
Thank you, Edwina. Yes, and I don't think I'll cover anything more salient than any of those topics, but just to point out what Edwina had, I guess, already listed on this agenda, we all know what's happening with the federal courts and the states that are dealing with the new religious freedom laws. So that's a topic that's very relevant to our movement right now, being, is this religious freedom law movement really an excuse to spread discrimination? How is that going to affect the LGBT movement? There's also not always, but for a while now, the issue of voucher programs that are using government tax dollars to actually encourage charter schools being able to teach Bible study and creationism. So we're always aware of that, at least in the US. These are some of the issues that are really relevant to secularism. Are we separating church and state, or are we allowing the government to tell us what our beliefs ought to be? And of course, in the international sphere, Edwina talked about really relevant topics there. You'll notice in the screen share I'm showing you now, the Campaign for Free Expression website also has a lot of important information about the state of blasphemy rights, which has been a big topic among some of our international fellows. If you have been reading the Daily Digest, this is coming up a lot, where bloggers and writers and poets are being jailed simply for expressing themselves. And if we do have international callers in attendance, I would love to get in a moment some feedback on the issues that are really relevant to you in your sphere. And Edwina also listed here the Saudi Arabia news, that there was a harsh punishment for Raif Badawi. And again, I'm going to butcher names. Please apologize. Please forgive me, I mean. But this is an example of a Saudi blogger who, just for insulting Islam online, is suffering. And we're very aware that this is a real issue for secularists, that we are often being persecuted around the world simply for having or wanting this freedom of religious belief. So if we have our friends in attendance here, the final item on our agenda for today was to do a member spotlight on the Foundation Beyond Belief, which is a wonderful organization that is already doing so much in our world to help the cause. And we should have, let me see here, we hopefully have 2 members in attendance. Do we have anyone from Foundation Beyond Belief here?
Yes, this is Satyam from Foundation Beyond Belief. I think Connor should also be on the call. Connor, are you there?
Yes, this is Connor, Director of the Humanist Service Corps. I'm also here.
Thank you both, and forgive my improper introduction, but I would love for the 2 of you to take the floor now and tell us what you have planned to share.
Connor, would you like to go ahead?
So, as I mentioned, my name is Connor Robinson. I'm the director of a specific program within Foundation Beyond Belief called the Humanist Service Corps, and it's one of the proposed programs that is listed on SPI's website at the moment. More generally, Foundation Beyond Belief was started as a, getting some sound through.
All right. Hold on one moment. Okay, so I'm sorry, I've muted you, Connor. I've muted everyone. Just a quick request, we'll see if we can do it, to ask anyone who may be on the line who is creating noise and not speaking at the moment to please mute your own line. I won't have access to anyone who's just called in via phone and not on the web. So if you could do your best to mute your line so that we can hear Connor speak. So Connor, let's give you another shot here. Hold on. Okay, Connor, you should have the floor.
Okay, thanks. So since 2010, Foundation Beyond Belief has functioned as a 100% pass-through charity conduit. And what the organization has done is it has carefully and thoroughly vetted mostly secular charities around the world in 5 categories that directly connect with Millennium Development Goals. And then when they've identified especially innovative and effective charities, they've channeled member donations directly to those charities. And they've selected charities that are well-positioned and generally smaller, such that those donations from members can have a large impact and a measurable impact. And so they've been doing that, as I mentioned, since 2010, and to date, nearly $2 million has been donated to secular causes by Foundation Beyond Belief members and supporters. Since that time in 2010, additional programs have been developed, First, there was the crisis response program, which allowed members, in addition to their monthly donations, to respond specifically in times of tragedy. For example, when the tornadoes hit Moore, Oklahoma, Foundation Beyond Belief organized a disaster response drive. They raised, I think, nearly $50,000, and then they gave that money directly to organizations on the ground. In addition to that, through their third program, the Volunteers Beyond Belief, or the Beyond Belief Network, which supports local free thought groups, Foundation Beyond Belief supported secular groups in Oklahoma who then were positioned to provide support directly to the victims of the disaster. So those are the first three programs of Foundation Beyond Belief. And now I am fortunate enough to be able to talk about my program, which is, I think, a logical extension of these first three programs. So for more than 5 years now, Foundation Beyond Belief has been providing financial support to innovative and effective charities. And now what we would like to do is provide human resources to charities that are well positioned to maximize those resources. So to organizations who have effective and really pioneering programs, but whose programs could be expanded, made more efficient, and maybe even broadened as well in target, with the help of people with administrative expertise, anthropological expertise, whatever the case may be. And so we put together teams of expert volunteers, and we travel directly to those organizations in order to help them maximize their impact. So that program is called the Humanist Service Corps, and it's launching this year, this summer, in northern Ghana. We've identified an incredible women's rights organization called Songtaba. We thoroughly vetted them as part of our exploratory trip last year, which was called Pathfinders Project. And they've invited us to return and support them again in protecting the human rights and restoring dignity to women who have been accused of witchcraft in the northern region, and as a result of those accusations, who have been stripped of all of their resources, separated from their families, and forced to live in exile. So that's the general overview, I think, of Foundation Beyond Belief and my program. There's one additional program that is also new this year, and that's called the Humanist Disaster Recovery Network. And similar to the crisis response program of Foundation Beyond Belief, this is one that's really only activated in times of great need, when a disaster occurs. But rather than merely channeling financial resources to groups on the ground, the Humanist Disaster Response Network is a group of volunteers, expert volunteers, who are prepared to mobilize in times of need and then provide direct assistance to the victims of disaster. So these would be people who have first responders training. These would be psychologists who can provide emotional and psychological support. These would be people who are just prepared through training to provide emotional support and to deliver supplies in a safe manner after tragedy. But they're people who have signed up beforehand and who are prepared to mobilize, much like many religious groups provide, but we would be doing so without any underlying motive, without any back and forth required. We would just be providing it out of our own humanism. So I think that's a good general overview. Satyam, if you want to jump in and add anything.
Go ahead. Sorry, Satyam. Go ahead.
The only thing that I would add is that the categories for humanist giving are human rights, natural world. Will you add to that, Connor?
Yeah, it's human rights, the natural world, education, poverty and health, and then there's a fifth category that is called challenge the gap. And that category is for a religious organization that only does secular work. And so it's Foundation Beyond Belief's sort of way of, A, encouraging religious organizations to do secular work.
Hey, Satyam.
An olive branch.
Yes.
I think that's your line making that feedback, so maybe just check your audio input.
Okay.
Oh, okay. It looks like Satyam muted herself. So, Connor, what were you saying?
I was just explaining the challenge the gap category. It was added after the original categories, and it was intended as, on the one hand, an olive branch between the secular community and the religious community as a way of showing an interest in collaboration, but at the same time also a sort of encouragement of religious organizations who do only secular work, because we think that's something to be encouraged. And the important thing to mention about the giving categories is that because we know some people aren't comfortable with their money going to religious organizations, even if they only do secular work, all members can choose how their donations are allocated. So some members choose not to donate to the Challenge the Gap category. Some members are really only interested in supporting the education category, so all of their donation goes there. It's entirely up to the donors, but those are the 5 categories.
Thank you, Connor. And let's see, Satyam, do you have anything to add?
I'm sorry, my dog just chose to bark right at this moment. I would encourage folks to go online to www.foundationbeyondbelief.org to find out more information about us. If you would like to join a local network of volunteers in the United States, you could find a group locally. There's a bunch of different secular groups in Florida, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, you name it. I think you can find one in your city, and these are the groups that would be trained and mobilized to respond to disasters. So I would really encourage you to visit us on the website and find out more about us.
Thank you so much, Satyam, and thank you so much, Connor. It's really a privilege that even on our first call, we could have such a direct collaboration with such a wonderful organization. And so I'd love to hear if anyone wants to speak up that isn't available to chat, and so I'd like to open up the floor for that now.
Well, good morning. This is George Gold in California. And I'm the president of the Atheists of Butte County and the coordinator of the Butte County Coalition of Reason. One of the things that's been troubling me about all these so-called religious freedom restoration acts is that the very title is an oxymoron. And I'm just wondering, I've certainly worked with the Freedom from Religion Foundation. In January, I gave the first ever secular invocation at the Chico City Council, and I'm doing my second one next Tuesday. And I'm just wondering why the focus has been on the LGBT community, while rightfully so. I'm wondering why atheists can't be classified as a, what's it called, a protected class, and whether there's any folks out there that see some just media reporting and not addressing the issue of this isn't about religious freedom. The First Amendment gave everybody the right to religious freedom. The only reason that these laws are being enacted is so that they can discriminate. And they're in direct violation of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and are just looking for an excuse to say, hey, you're gay, you're an atheist. I mean, what if I walk into one of these stores and I have, hi, good morning, I'm your friendly atheist on my T-shirt? It's just really annoying and counterproductive to what America is supposed to be about.
Thank you for expressing that, George. I couldn't agree with you more, obviously. I'm wondering if we still have CEO Edwina Rogers with us. Do we?
Yes, I'm here, and it is true. There is a whole database full of discrimination that we already know about and track with regard to non-believers being discriminated against. Now, the law originated, Senator Schumer introduced it, and Bill Clinton signed it, the federal law, which started all this, and then the states are starting to follow suit, and of course they're taking it even further. So it is something that is a big concern in the U.S. So it is under the cloak of religious liberty, but actually it's nothing but a license to discriminate. And like, for example, if you look at adoption, and a lot of the money for adoptions go to Catholic charities, I can assure you that atheist parents rarely make it to the top of the list. So we are tracking that, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Edwina, and thank you, George. And if anyone else has thoughts to add about the things that we as organizations can be considering, tactics, strategies.
This is Johnny. I thought I'd jump in with a couple of ideas. The Secular Policy Institute is really different than a lot of secular groups in two ways, and we're trying to set a culture that I hope that I can talk you, the coalition leaders, into. One of them is that we don't attack religion. You know, it's so much fun to bash the Bible, but we find that when we do this, it really turns people off, even if we're right. And unfortunately, being liked is a big part of the problem for getting us to be, to be more accepted. The more that we attack religion openly and kind of cranky pants, the less access we have to big decision makers in politics, government, and media. And the other one is just groups working together. We all know that we've got great people in our movement, and we also have others that, sometimes they squabble. That's okay. But the more that we look like squabblers to the outside world, just the less they're going to give us respect and power. So when it comes to people we invite to our conferences, people we partner with, we should just expect them to be professional, be friendly, work together, and if we disagree on some things, don't get on the soapbox. Just do the best you can to work together anyway. At least that's my 2 cents.
Well, I hear what you're saying. This is George, but I just want to mention that the civil rights movement didn't succeed by being nice all the time. The LGBT community didn't succeed and isn't succeeding by being nice all the time. So one of my commitments when I do the secular invocations is to be inclusive. And I hear what you're saying, but let's be careful about implying that we shouldn't stand up for ourselves, because as atheists, to become more prominent, we have to stand up for ourselves. The largest growing segment in the population of the United States is the secular community. For millennials, it's up to 37% in California. I don't think we have to hide.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny and I know, have spoken extensively about this, and we have similar viewpoints just on what the face of the atheist and secular movements look like and how we can most accomplish our goals. And George definitely also in agreement that we need a strong face. I would love it if there are people in attendance who haven't spoken up yet, who might be in attendance from other countries, who would share maybe a little bit about their experience or at least introduce themselves. Can we have a moment for that?
I'm in the U.S. This is Andrea Meyer. I am the founder and the director of the International Free Thought Film Festival. I'm also one of your volunteers at the Secular Policy Institute. I am tasked with reaching out to potential fellows and advocates, which will prove to be an interesting feat in trying to make this this collaboration truly international and this think tank diverse, so that we've got people who are on board who are focused on secular policy, from many different vantage points. So I'm happy to be a part of this.
Thank you so much, Andrea. I really appreciate it. And all the hard work that everyone is doing. I'm going to give one more opportunity, a gentle opportunity to anyone who might want to speak up.
So again, I'm Ben Viber, the Humanist Chaplain at American University here in DC, and one of the things that I've discussed with my students, of course, who are going to be going out into the back out into the work environment and trying to find jobs, and hopefully doing various kinds of service that I think are in line with SPI and a kind of moving, growing agenda for non-theists, humanists, secularists, atheists to be seen in a positive light, doing what we believe in instead of often being engaged in various kinds of debates with what we oppose, which we of course need to do that as well. And one of the concerns that students have at American University, there's a strong focus on international service. That's one of their key focal points of the whole university. But many of the students are also looking for ways of doing service in the United States. Concrete community services, parallel to what we might find in, say, Jewish social services, Catholic social services, Lutheran social services, etc. And one of the questions I would raise for future conversations is whether we as a movement want to try to develop essentially humanist community services as well as humanist international service organizations, and link them together so that there would be somewhat a pipeline, if you will, for the connections between various localities and the development of an international movement. So, you know, ranging from things like humanist daycares and after-school programs to humanist senior services, humanist sobriety services, as well as things like, frankly, like community centers where we might have a fair trade cafe or a bookstore and a community center where we could have events. So more of a community organizing approach. So I'd raise that for future conversation. Obviously, we're almost at the end of the meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for those thoughts. I don't know how in detail we got today about the Community Action Network that is going to be sort of an offshoot project of the SPI. And if Edwina is still with us, maybe she'll reintroduce that topic. But that is one of many examples that you gave, Ben, of a community-based, actually school-centric network for a humanist type of service. And I think the more discussion we have about that, the better. You can always email Ben and anyone else, Edwina Rogers, edwina@secularpolicyinstitute.net, or Johnny or myself, with any ideas for things that you might want to have put on future agendas. Thank you, Ben. And just to wrap up, I will remind everyone we are going to be meeting again the next first Thursday. So every first Thursday of the month at 12 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, which Johnny has thankfully listed for us as GMT -4 for those of us outside of the U.S. to call in. And you will get the update with all of the conference call-in details again. And Johnny, do you have any final thoughts?
Just go to the website and click projects. I'd love to have a bunch more submissions because I really want to help everyone here on the call with your project.
If you go to our website and you click on the projects tab, we have active projects, past projects, proposed projects, and an opportunity to submit a project. So as Ben's example, or the things that George was talking about, if you can come up with a way that could be a project proposal, certainly submit that to us.
This is Connor Robinson again. I'll just give a quick shout out / pitch for Johnny related to these project submissions. You know, if you all are interested in putting together a project proposal, the language on the website about the close collaboration between SPI and and your people is true, it's honest. Johnny and the folks at SPI will walk you through really turning it into something that can be presented to potential supporters and volunteers and to your audience.
Thank you, Connor. Thanks again, everyone. And I think we'll wrap up for today. Again, we'll be meeting 1 month from now on the first Thursday of the month. And the conversation can obviously continue in the interim. Please email, call. And thank you again. Take care.